Good evening, everyone. My name is Vasundara Rajan, and I'm presenting from Plano, Texas. I'm mentored by Archie. Today, I'll be presenting my project, Atherosclerosis Detector, using a non-invasive diagnostic tool for earlier detection of atherosclerosis. So let's begin by looking at the problem, late diagnosis of atherosclerosis. To begin examining this issue, we need to get an idea of what atherosclerosis really is. Atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis is the buildup of plaque, which is fat and cholesterol, in arteries. According to the National Institute of Health, disease linked to atherosclerosis is the leading cause of death in the United States. It's considered a silent killer because it can build up slowly without symptoms. This is why about half of Americans between ages 45 and 84 have atherosclerosis and don't know it. This disease can also lead to heart attacks, strokes, and etc. So now that we've understood what the problem is, why is it such a big issue? The buildup of plaque is attributed to three main reasons. First, lifestyle like diet. Second, genetic factors and health history. And finally, late diagnosis. Late diagnosis is a very big problem for atherosclerosis due to its lack of symptoms that are shown. According to Penn Medicine, most people with mild atherosclerosis do not have any symptoms until an artery is severely narrowed or becomes blocked entirely. This shows that if the presence of atherosclerosis is detected earlier, blockage can therefore be prevented. So now that we've understood the problem, let's look at the solution. My solution is a non-invasive diagnostic tool, a web app, that detects atherosclerosis at an earlier stage using pulse and blood pressure, which are user inputs, as well as pulse pressure and mean arterial pressure. The presence of plaque increases the overall pressure in the heart and the blood, which is reflected in MAP, pulse pressure, blood pressure, and pulse, as they all increase. In a layman's language, it's similar to if a rock is stuck in a hose. In order to get it out, we push more water with more force into the pipe. Similarly, the heart tries to push blood with more force into the arteries to dislodge the plaque in the arteries. The app also helps the user visualize pressure volume changes through a PV loop once the user gets an ECG or echocardiogram report from a licensed professional. This also helps the patient alter their lifestyle accordingly to avoid long-term cardiac complications. So how does this app work? There are two main parts in the app. The first is detection. In this part of the app, first the user inputs blood pressure and pulse data into the app. Using that data, the app calculates mean arterial pressure and pulse pressure. After that, the user's blood pressure, pulse, MAP, and pulse pressure are compared against ranges of normal and abnormal values. Finally, the result of the comparison is displayed to the user as normal or abnormal accordingly through a warning message. The next part of the app is the PV loop part. After seeing the results shown in the app, the user may choose to visit a licensed doctor. This licensed doctor can confirm if they are possibly abnormal or not normal. After getting the report, if they would like to see their PV loop, an approximation of their PV loop, they can click on the second tab. Here they input the end systolic and end diastolic volume and pressure, as well as BP, based on the reports given by their doctor. These values are then used by the app to plot the 5 main points on a PV loop. The points are then connected to make the graph. Finally, the user is provided in a display with the PV loop along with instructions to interpret the graph in an aim to understand long-term conditions. So with this process in mind, let us view a demo video of this app being used.
First, the detection. Now we'll see a demo of the data for a normal person. So we're inputting the data here as blood pressure and pulse. And you enter appropriate values and click go. and it shows the appropriate message, such as your data shows that you're in a normal range, as well as your data versus the standard. Now we can see an affected person. So we enter the appropriate BP, the systolic and the diastolic, as well as the pulse. And then we click go, and it shows the matching message, such as you may be possibly affected by atherosclerosis, and you should visit a licensed doctor. And it also shows your data in comparison to the standard or what you should generally be. Now we look at the PV loop. So now we'll change the values to that of a normal person, mimicking normal persons. So we change the BP and EDP, EDV, ESP, ESV according to however it would have been on the report given by your doctor according to an ECG or an echocardiogram. And you click go, and it shows your PV loop versus a normal PV loop, as well as instructions showing what a PV loop is, as well as 3 situations to interpret the PV loop, regarding instructions for that and what it could show for future complications. Next, we'll see what an affected person's PV loop would look like. So we would change the BB values as well as the EDP, EDV, ESP, and ESV values to such that it mimics an abnormal person. And this would be such that it is on your report received from your doctor. And now you see the PV loop has changed, and it looks different from the normal PV loop. And again, there are still instructions for how to interpret the PV loop, what future complications would look like, as well as how if none of the options would apply, etc.
So in conclusion, this app will help detect atherosclerosis earlier, which can lead to better prevention and better treatment possibilities, which therefore saves time and effort towards life-saving conditions. This app can also be used as an indicator to lead to earlier prevention of atherosclerosis. It can also be used by a doctor before scans, or as well as in a clinical setting for routine health monitoring. Finally, on the bottom of the screen are a link and a QR code to the published app for anyone who would like to see the app. Thank you for your time, and remember, no beauty shines brighter than a healthy heart. Please contact me at the mentioned email if you have any further questions. Thank you.